On the podcast this week, we talk about the 1,000-day rule and why businesses struggle with it and how we can help you shortcut it. Welcome to the Profit Cash Growth Podcast. This is the podcast for 6- and 7-figure business owners who are looking to grow a financially successful business. My co-host, Claire Hancott, is a finance director, chartered accountant and entrepreneur. And every week, I'll be exploring guidance and frameworks designed to help you increase your profits, improve your cash flow and grow your business. I'm dead excited about today's episode, Claire.
Why?
Because you've come up with this 1,000-day formula, haven't you?
Yes,
where you've really just assessed what it takes to become a successful business, but most importantly, like how long it takes and various other things. So I'm really looking forward to diving into that today. But what I wanted to talk to you about is I heard something, and it's linked to this because obviously this rule's about how long it takes to get your business, really stable and firing on all cylinders and all that kind of thing. And we always hear, don't we? I think nobody would disagree with the fact that there is no quick wins in business, yeah? Is that fair to say?
Mostly, yeah. Every now and again, you might, find a unicorn, strike lucky, hit gold. That
doesn't take any work, hard work, doesn't take any.
Sometimes you get lucky, but generally, I agree with you. It's hard work and perseverance and compounding impact that really matters.
I was reading something the other day, which I think is the polar opposite of what we're about to talk about, which I thought was quite interesting. It was about the 4 dumbest business ideas that ended up making people a millionaire. And this one was great. This was a guy in Romania who basically started a YouTube channel called the 10-Hour Fireplace. And you can go and find this now. If you search the 10-Hour Fireplace on YouTube, what you'll find a YouTube channel with just one single video on it that was posted 10 years ago. And it literally is 10 hours of a fireplace burning. And to be honest with you, I'm not even convinced that the fireplace is a real fireplace because nobody ever throws any more logs on it. It feels like a 30-second clip that's been looped over and over again for 10 hours. But this video's had 157 million views since it was published 10 years ago. And if you look at the comments, the top comment on the video just says, "Bro is a multimillionaire." So it just goes to show that some people can just hit it. Look, do you think
gold.
Do you think the guy had any inkling? I'd love to interview him. Would you love to interview him? Do you think the guy had any inkling when he did that he was doing something good, or do you think it's just complete sheer luck?
It's complete sheer luck because, obviously, if we now went and recorded a blooming fireplace video, it wouldn't do anything like that. What would be really interesting to find out is if he did anything to get views on the channel. Did he advertise it? Did he do anything like that to drive traffic there? Because he had the idea to record the video, but he also needed to get people to watch it. And was that lucky as well?
I think it was all lucky in the fact that I think he just absolutely nailed the searchability of the title because it literally is called the 10-Hour Fireplace. I mean, it literally does what it says on the tin.
That's what probably everybody had on their TV at Christmas time when people come round. Yeah.
And he's probably one of the oldest ones, so it's got legacy. So the more it's being watched, the more it surfaces as the top of it. And it just goes, doesn't it?
Like the equivalent of Mariah Carey. Can just live off the Christmas.
Mariah Carey. Yeah.
Can live off the Christmas royalties when everybody
and I wonder how much it carries on because he keeps it's just now he's got passive income. He's got that true golden what they call passive income, isn't it? It just carries on. Anyway, I thought it was mad because we're about to talk about how hard things are to start a business, and this guy has literally just nailed it. What they said as well is isn't it great that he also didn't try and overcomplicate it. He didn't put one video up and think, I've done really well, now I need a sequel. He just stopped and just accepted what it was is what it was, and he's not tried to improve it. He's not taken it down and tried to make it and tweak it better. He's just simplicity has won over. I love that about it. But anyway, from one I don't know if you can call him an entrepreneur, from one non-entrepreneur to one true entrepreneur, let's see what's this week's news story of the week. So this week, Claire, I picked out a little cute entrepreneurial story because it was a bit of a light news week, if I'm honest. If we didn't want to talk about Donald Trump, we had nothing to talk about. So this is the story of Simon Mellin, and the headline was, "Why I'm aiming to be the fastest milkman in the West." I like this because I know you're going to say you did know about this, but I didn't realise milkmen were really a thing still. I certainly didn't know that there was big money and big businesses in it because Simon Mellin has a company called The Modern Milkman. based in Manchester, Lancashire born, and he's been going since like 2018 with it. And the business turns over like it's knocking on £50 million now. And he's just about to expand to the US.
Exciting.
So he's going to have offices in Lancaster, Manchester, and Boston. Just a thought, because I know we spoke about this before the podcast, and it's just struck me as something strange. Do you think it's odd that he went from Lancaster to Manchester to Boston? Because if you think about the Ansoff matrix, this feels like a risky move rather than just going Leeds next, Birmingham next, Leicester, Nottingham, Derby, London.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how big the milkman market is in the UK and how much of that he's got, but it feels like a big leap for sure. But I mean, actually, I was aware that milkman was still a thing in the UK. Like, my dad still gets a milk delivery, and most of the offices that we've got get milk deliveries and things like that. So, yeah, I was very aware that this is a thing. What I think was quite striking, you said something when we were doing just a bit of warm up before the podcast. You said that you feel like
the milkman was 40 years too soon.
Yeah, with the likes of, Tesco's Whoosh, I guess, is like an equivalent of like a milkman and Amazon grocery deliveries now. But it's
exactly what it is.
I think you're absolutely right. There's this big move and push at the moment to move towards more what is seen as like whole, raw, pure foods, whatever blooming fancy terminology you want to put on it. But this whole thing, I like the idea of getting the milkman. One, so we've always got like fresh milk, bread, eggs, all of that in our house. But also because it feels like getting direct from the farm, and it must be better for you than buying from the supermarket and all of that kind of stuff.
I don't think when you're doing 50 million, you're really like in touch as much with the farm. You've got to have a hell of a supply chain.
No, I mean, I very much expect that this guy has grown in the UK by buying the rounds from local dairies, and that's how it's done. Most local cow farms or dairy farms will do a milk round, and so I wonder if his growth in the UK has been through acquisitions.
Now, his mission was he said he was inspired by David Attenborough's Blue Planet back in October 2018. So his whole mission is to reduce household waste, which is an interesting underarching mission of the modern milkman. I'm guessing he's assuming that if he delivers small and often to people's houses, that they only order and consume what they need, not overbuy in a supermarket once a week and throw lots away.
And if you're using glass bottles as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because he was talking a bit about
recyclable egg cartons, all of that kind of stuff.
Now, it's interesting because going back to what I said about why why are you not absolutely nailing your home market that that you've got the skills in and everything before you go to the US? Because actually, he's not that complimentary about his move into the US. I think it's quick, isn't it, to start in 2018 and go to the US. And he sort of said it's been a massive learning curve. I think he said basically the common language gave him a false sense of security. He said, you think that you're moving to a place where they speak the same language, so it'll be easy. But he said, I just didn't understand the American way of living. And, the whole thing could be further from the truth that it's just about the language. And that is true of any business, isn't it? When you decide to actually, the riskiest growth strategy is that one where you go into completely new markets that you don't know. I mean, you really want to be saturating what you do. Do you think this is the entrepreneurial curse, as they say, which is any sane person will just go I don't stop until I've absolutely milked my total addressable market here in the UK.
You've milked your market, eh?
No, yes, no pun intended. But no, he's gone I'm all right in Manchester and Lancaster. Let's go to Boston.
Well, look, I think when a business gets to about 50 million, that's a fair size business. And I think that is when you do need to start thinking about making some strategic moves. So if you plan to only get to 100 million, you could have probably done that in the UK. But if you plan to go beyond that, you are probably going to have to expand geographically outside of the UK at some point. So I actually think he's made quite a smart move, probably at the right time. The question would be whether he, like you say, he truly understood the market, whether he went into the correct market or whether he just went to America because of the language.
Yep.
And was there a better market closer to home that was more closely aligned to the UK, maybe somewhere in Europe or something that he could have dipped his toe in the water? But no, I think hats off to him. Smart move, smart guy. 7 years in, not made a profit yet. Did that worry you? Or is it just high growth? I wouldn't expect him to make a profit after 7 years. I think it's wise he not made a profit. I guess he might not have made a profit because he's got a lot of finance potentially. Well, not only not made a profit, you just don't know the reason why he's not made a profit. He said last year he's made losses of 6 million, but they narrowed by 40%, which means the losses the year before must be about 10 million.
So it's not that they're not only profit, they actually made harrowingly big losses. So there's a lot, even when you make a profit, there's a lot of profit you've got to make before you're back to break even as a business, isn't it? So,
but a move like moving into America, I imagine that they needed a lot of investment, a lot of capital infrastructure up front, a lot of debt.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised they'd be making a loss. So it's not necessarily a concern. I think if they're making a loss from the day-to-day operations, that's a bit more concerning.
Well, I think, one last stat that I just saw in here, which is totally unrelated to the business side of it, but I was really surprised. So how Modern Milkman sales have switched. So basically, the amount of people, what percentage of people do you think order semi-skim milk versus whole milk, like when he launched in 2018?
I would say maybe I would expect 65% of milk sales to be semi-skimmed.
Yeah, so it's a 60-40 split, 60% semi-skim, 40% whole milk.
Yeah.
But it's completely shifted the other way around now. Now he's at 40% semi-skim to 60% whole milk. Why have consumer trends changed in just 7 years in the UK to people wanting full-fat milk? That is something that I can't even explain.
What are people doing with the milk, like protein shakes and things like that? Is it seen as less processed? Maybe I don't know, all of those things that could go into it. But whole milk does taste good.
Anyway, I think this moves on nicely because clearly this guy's had the pain of the 1,000-day theory or more. It's fair to say, isn't it? So let's move on to this week's deep dive. So, Claire, what is the 1,000-day rule?
This came about because I did a session with a business coach mentor, and they were talking to me. I was talking about how I'd literally not had a day off for 6 months, worked 7 days, evenings, weekends, everything. And they were like, you're burning yourself out. You need to take time off. And I was like, no, don't you understand that the more I work, the quicker my result will be? And he said, what do you mean? I said, I believe that you need to put in 1,000 days of working on your business, not in your business, to get to a point where you really start to reap the rewards. So your business can run without you, you're making good profits, all of those types of things. And I think it takes 1,000 days of that.
Yeah.
So what we're going to talk today a little bit about is some ways that you can shortcut that and make that 1,000 days as quick as possible. Yeah,
and I think it's fair to say that kind of normality, a reasonable pace but not a super pace with this, would be most business owners fit that 1,000 days in over a 10-year period. And it's fair to say that most businesses really find that sweet spot at 10 years, don't they? But what you want to talk about today is, what if you don't want to wait 10 years to hit that sweet spot? You want to half that and feel that at 5, or even hit it at 3, and you think you've hit on a number of things that you should be focusing on changing to reduce that 1,000 days over 10 years of working on your business to a shorter term. And we're going to talk through them today, aren't we?
And I think this is quite an important conversation as well, particularly for people that might be in their business and not where they want their business to be, or people that are at the start thinking about starting a business, because there's so much crap on social media, isn't there, about how you can be a millionaire overnight if you do this and you do that. And I think that there has become this trend of people saying, I don't work that hard at all. And it's like, no, it's bloody hard work. It is. You have to be obsessed with your business if you really want to grow it rapidly. And so I think this is about having a frank conversation about what it really takes to get there as well.
Yeah, I've been watching, because he's been doing the rounds on everyone's podcast of late. I've been watching a lot of Tony Robbins, and he's like 65 now. And if there's one thing I've taken away from all of the deep conversations that he's had, and he's just a phenomenal individual. I mean, his life advice, his business advice, everything. If you haven't soaked up some Tony Robbins, and before him there was a guy called Jim Rohn who was his mentor. These guys are just geniuses in their field. But the two words that he's said, and to do business, life, goals, everything, he's on a mission that's a charitable mission at the moment, but he applies the same two words, and you've just used one of them, which is obsessed and relentless. Yeah. He said those two words, you need to be absolutely obsessed with what you're trying to achieve, and you need to be absolutely relentless in the pursuit of it. And that's interesting. So that moves us on to our point number 1 of this quite nicely, doesn't it? Which is dead simple when you think about it. What is it, Claire?
Well, it's just to work more. So just before we go on to that, I think what we are really hitting on here is that it's the days working on your business, not in your business. So I think everybody's probably familiar with that phrase, but it's like every day that in my accountancy firm, if I'm sitting there doing accounts and serving our clients and things like that,
doesn't count.
That's operational on the tools work.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about those times where I'm strategizing, doing marketing, doing all those things that really drive my business forward to the next level, not just delivering the output that you've already won.
Yeah, exactly.
So the obvious one is, particularly if you're at the start, or particularly if you don't have the luxury of being able to afford more staff or anything like that at the moment, you need to work more. And unfortunately, that does mean working evenings and weekends. If you have got a job working 5 days a week in your business, then you could probably fit in another 2 or 3 days around that
on your business
what had been your leisure time previously.
Agreed. Yeah.
And so even if you just did 2 extra days, so you did a bit of time in the evening and you work one Saturday or Sunday, that's only 100 days a year.
And I've done this, you've done this, we've done this as the collective in all of the different business pursuits.
Well, here we are on a Sunday doing a podcast.
A good example would be, I would always say that at the times where I've been growing the business and haven't been able to afford the people, the daytime, those kind of normal hours, the 9 to 5 hours, were always that I'm working in the business. But then I'd put in 6 hours in the evening working on the business, or I'd put in 2 hours before the beginning of the day and 4 hours at the end of the day, plus the whole day on a Sunday or something like that, like we do. We often our Sundays are pretty much always dedicated to working on the business days, aren't they? Because the people aren't around, the noise isn't around, the work isn't around, the emails isn't around. So you can get ultra focused. So that's definitely 2 full days, because you're spending a full day and I'm spending a full day doing it. So that's 2 we do in the week, but we're also doing it in the evenings. Like I spend 2-3 hours every most evenings outside of the work times, and most of that thought is on the business type activity. So there is just that simple thing of if you want to hit those 1,000 days, and that's a lot of days, because you think about that, even if you did every day of the week, that's 3 just on your business, that's 3 years. So to shorten this, you really got to pack them in. And,
of course, we sit here in a luxurious position. We don't have children, and we're a couple.
That we know of.
That we know. All right. And we're a couple. So it's very easy for us to slip in and out of, work conversations around the dinner table and in the car journey and things like that. And so we are in a very luxurious position from that perspective. But the reality is that if you don't want to be obsessed with your business and you want to have a 9 to 5 and that's it, get a bloody job, because honestly, you're just going to find it so difficult.
You're just going to find it frustrating, yes, aren't you? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Perfect. So the second idea
is quite obvious, but it's to get hires that release you from the day-to-day operations.
Yeah. And actually, do you know what? You say it's a simple idea, but it's a simple idea. It's really hard to execute well, though, isn't it?
It is hard to execute well. And I think that over the years, we have learned the hard way that as soon as you've got a little bit of money, the temptation is to get a PA or get an admin person in the office or something just to help. And I've always found that it just doesn't quite free you up enough. And I think you just need a really good person that is quite self-sufficient. I'm not saying that you need somebody at a very senior level, but, go and spend 40, 50K on a good person that will just sit in your business, take ownership for things and just really make decisions and properly free you up from the day-to-day.
And that's the hard thing, the right person. At the point of the end of last year, we'd recruited and sacked more people than we had recruited in your business, hadn't we? That's the reality, because it takes 4 recruits for everyone to surface. That's absolutely amazing. It's a challenging. And you listen to anybody, they would say that you have to learn to be better at firing than you are at hiring. It's a challenge. You read every Amazon book, you read everything. It's always the same thing. Good people are hard to come by, and it's not just driven by money. You only have a number of hours in an interview to really assess that person, and you only really know them when they get in to sit and do the job for a few
especially,
weeks.
What we're doing here at Profit Cash Growth, trying to find an accountant with the right experience is very, very difficult. And you can recruit on attitude and think they've got the right experience that could be transferable, but if it just doesn't work in reality, it doesn't work. And
the problem is the challenge that you have is you're trying to be a top 1% company in a C, and the problem is with that is that by very definition, if you want to operate in the top 1%, then you've got to somehow try and find people that operate in the top 1%. And that's really, chances are that's really, really, really hard. And you find that, and you will find that if you really want your business to be that good.
Yeah. Got some really good staff now, though, moved in a completely different direction, partly up in the salaries, but also just really putting a shit ton of effort into the recruitment process and our skills.
And then the final part of that is that when the earliest possible point where you can afford to recruit that one key management operator-led position that can truly take the operation of your business away from you, that's the first thing you need to do. It's truly game-changing when that happens. I found that in my business, you found that in your business, and I think, you know, we couldn't stress enough to do that as early as you physically can. In fact, you have to do it before you can afford it. You have to lean into that growth and try and do it before you can afford it. So important.
So, number 3, how to shortcut this 1,000 days, is to have people around you who could also be chipping away at that 1,000 days. So you've got people who can take the operational workload off you to free you up to work more on your business. But it's like, as Simon touched upon at the start, we're a couple. So every day that we spend working on our business is actually 2 days going into that. So who can you find that can help? Is it a partner? Is it a friend? Is it a senior person in your business that, as well as maybe being on the books and kind of doing some day-to-day operational stuff, they also have a day of strategizing and moving the business forward as well?
Yeah.
And
working on those, like the systems and processes of the business that make it scalable, not just the day-to-day operations.
Yeah. And that's when it really starts to become game-changing, because all of a sudden you might have one day where if me, you and
somebody else
and the finance director in my business, if we're all doing things that move in the business forward, that's one day, but we've taken 3 days.
3 days
off of the 1,000 days.
Absolutely.
So that can really start to become quite powerful, and that's when you can start to get some quite rapid speed, is when you've got other people in your business that are working on it rather than in it.
Yeah. And then the third one we
Fourth.
have on here, fourth one.
Can't count today.
Is around, I sort of put this in a bucket of technologies, tools, automation, kind of all of those things that are like non-people related, but will leverage your time, the skills, those kind of systems and processes. And there's so much to put in this bucket. I mean, I'm not going to pigeonhole and pick one, but we're talking about, like, you've got to become obsessive about having the time to research what's out there available that can help your business in the technology world, in the software world. You've got to have time to test it in your business because, you know, again, similar to people, for every 4 you test, only one will be of any use.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crap software out there. There's a lot of, you know, misrepresented promises from companies as well.
Yeah.
We see that all the time, who promise the earth and actually it just doesn't deliver. And you do need to have the time to just put it in the business, test it, and just walk away from it if it doesn't work, or embrace if it does. And you can quite quickly do that, but you've got to put the time in.
And the reality is that, you know, if I sat down next to my dad, for example, you know, I love my dad, but he's not a very techie person. And so the efficiency or the output of what would come from me of 1 day of working on my business versus come from my dad of working 1 day on his business would probably be very different.
10x probably.
Yeah, because I can utilize technology a lot. I can set something to run in the background while I'm doing something else. So, you know, it's not just an age thing for sure, but I think that's what it's about, is when you sit down and you've only got 1 hour to spend on your business doing something impactful, is how do you make that hour as impactful as possible?
Well, it's not at all an age thing in my view. It's purely a skill and education thing. It's nothing to do with age, is it? Somebody that doesn't have the skill and education to know how to find and use the technology. Simple as that. And you can be. You know, I've got people in their early 30s who are completely tech illiterate.
Yes. Yeah, no, I do agree with that, because there would be other things
it's nothing to do with that.
You know, there'd be other things that if we sat down, I don't know, to do something for the day, and his skills and experience would far outstrip me, and he'd be more efficient.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Personally, I think I think everything's down to skills and experience, and you can acquire those things if you want to be relentless in the pursuit of it and obsessive in the pursuit of it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, isn't it?
But it's like a good example of tech and automation, for example, is like the ChatGPT agent. If we know we're going to sit down and do something and we want to look at, we want to look at the accountancy market and we want some statistics on something, we can set the agent to work overnight to gather all that information for us, prepare a briefing document so that when we sit down, we've got the information available. We're not wasting a couple of hours gathering the information, reading some online articles and stuff. It's all just delivered to us because of technology. So that's an example of how you can really use technology to make sure that the time that you are spending on your business is really efficient.
Yeah. And this moves us actually quite nicely onto number 5, because this is all about upskilling, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, I've wrote again, there's a whole bucket of things here. What you resonate with and how you use these things is personal, because you know, I've wrote here podcasts, books, YouTube, mentors, coaching groups. Like, the reality is I'm a big listener. I'm podcasts all day long, and I love books don't have so much time to sit and watch YouTube stuff as much as I perhaps like, as much as I do enjoy it. So you just have to find what works with your life. You're the opposite. You're a watcher.
Yeah.
So you'll find time to do it and you absorb it that way. So it doesn't matter what you use, because lots of them overlap. I mean, the reality is, in lots of cases, podcast, books and YouTube, they all overlap. They're just delivering often the same message, but in a different format, whatever works the best for you. But the key is, you've got to put in the grind here. You've got to put in the work.
Yeah.
This for me is the biggest. This is the biggest leverage. This is the biggest upside that I've seen in my life, is the time I put in this place.
I totally agree with you. I think we've put mentor coaches on there and then just put kind of but be careful. We're not talking about these charlatans that are on LinkedIn, the, £1 Charlies that have done something once and tell you that you can go and do it. We're talking about like proper people that have been there, done it, walked the walk.
Absolutely.
And, proper mastermind groups. I go to Dan Bradbury's CEO Mastermind and I come out of there every quarter with a list of things that I go away and I do. And it's really started, the last quarterly session, I came away with a list of just 3 things and I've implemented every single one of them, and it has really significantly changed the operational side of my business and means that I now know that the operational side is working fine, and it's freed up my headspace to do more of the on my business stuff, which is interesting because it starts to compound.
I think that's the key, because all of these things work in a line. And I see, you've got podcast, books and YouTube as this self-education piece. But actually what happens is what you learn in that piece there and you absorb in that piece becomes the implementation piece when you go to a coaching group or you go to be held to account for these things. People like Dan and coaches like that absolutely help you unlock that education or that knowledge that you've managed to absorb. So you need both.
Yeah, because for example, as part of Dan Bradbury's CEO Mastermind, I get some sessions with Kevin, who's a business mentor there. And we did a day with him on our sales and marketing strategy, didn't we? And it was just a whole day just sort of talking through all the different points that a customer could come to us from a marketing or sales perspective and hooking them all up together so it was a proper journey. And if we had tried to approach that ourselves, I think we probably would have spent a bit more time researching each individual touch point, because, for example, when somebody lands on our website and we would have gone a bit deep and said, what makes a really good website and what does this and what does that. And I think that one day would have probably turned into a week.
Well, the core
Whereas
is that
having somebody there that could facilitate and ask the right questions at the right time just made it so that actually within the space of like 3 or 4 hours, we'd mapped out our entire marketing strategy and we were very clear on the journey that a customer needed to go through. And that in itself was game changing as well.
Well, the point is that you can get so wrapped up in knowing what you know that the great thing about sessions like that is that, they're there they ask in many ways the stupid questions because they don't know your industry. They don't know what you're about. So they're asking the same questions your customer's likely to ask. And it's the same, it's the same reason that I like this podcast. It's like, I ask the stupid questions. You've got all the answers, but actually most business owners are listening to what come out of your mouth. And actually they're saying, just slow down a minute and tell me this at this level because I don't get it. And that's, I think, what's really great about great coaches or great sessions like that is they'll ask the glaringly obvious that you've just brushed over. And it's the glaringly obvious and the simple that is so important. As I always say, reading age 7. Why do I say reading age 7, Claire?
Because that's the average reading age of a UK person.
Average reading age of a UK adult is reading age 7.
Yeah.
And we forget that. And we put millions of spreadsheets, PowerPoints, words on a website that don't resonate with people. And one of the greatest books that I've just recently read is by David Ogilvy of the big advertising agency in America. And I can't remember the book, but it's like a memoirs book.
Rory Sutherland's.
He works for them now. But
marketing company.
It was amazing reading this book that was written in 1962. And he's one of the greatest copywriters and understanders of human psychology ever. And 95% of every sort of philosophy and the way to communicate with the human through language is exactly the same today as it would have been in 1962. His lessons and his thoughts are as impactful today as they were then. And they're always the opposite of what you think they are. So
it's really interesting. So yeah, if you've got the budget, I'd highly suggest that you look at this as, I sound a little bit like a salesperson here, but mentors and the right business coaches will be an investment, not a cost, and they will deliver like 10 times the cost back to you in value if you get the right person and you get the right group. So that I think is a really powerful way to really catapult your business forward, because also you're just buying somebody else's knowledge. If they've been there, walked the walk many times, they will just tell you exactly what you need to go and do as well. And sometimes that could be really powerful.
Brilliant. Well, we could go on forever with lots of different things, but they're the top 5, aren't they? They're the most impactful 5 we've learned over our, 4. We've done the 1,000-day 4 times now with 4 different businesses. We've been through this process, and every time we've shortened it a bit.
What I want us to start doing is tracking where we are on that 1,000-day journey.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think that would be really quite powerful, because if you had a chart on the wall and you got to cross off half a day at a time every time you did a bit of work on your business and moved it forward, I don't think working Saturdays and Sundays, I don't know, if you're like me and you like getting a little gold star or badge for something, then I don't think your weekend work would seem quite so bad if you get to chip away at it quite visually. And I think that's where that's so. I'm going to put a little chart on the wall and we're going to start chipping away at that.
Perfect. Great. Well, I hope you've got some interesting points to take away from that. And let's move on to this week's Profit Cash Growth Extra. So this week, Claire, I feel like we might be becoming like what's the word, like ambassadors for ChatGPT or something. Because didn't we do a ChatGPT last week with the wine?
I think the last 3 weeks have been ChatGPT.
That's crazy. Well, we're doing another ChatGPT because you mentioned this one, because you said, I mean, we use this all the time. But you're like, I don't think people realise this. And this is the chat function on ChatGPT, like the full-on conversation you can have with.
Yeah, not where you hold the button and you can just dictate into it. It's like you can have a full-on conversation, like you're having a conversation with a human being.
Yeah.
Which is why we've named our AIs, because we feel
Bradley
like
and Hazel.
They're now in our lives and they're our buddies.
They're our executive assistants, so to speak. Yeah, so it's really handy. I use this a lot when I'm driving. No thoughts on that?
I love the look. You're like surprised. Okay, what do you want me to say to that?
It's like, that's a really good idea, Simon. Well done. How do you do that?
It's
a great use. It's a great use of driving, because I can just chat with a person that's far more intelligent than you, and I was going to say than me, but than you as well. I can just chat my ideas. So I'll come back from the gym and like for 20 minutes, I genuinely, I'll put it, because it comes through the car speakers, and I will chat with Bradley and about all my different ideas, and he'll coach me through it. What
I love is this has really done wonders for our marriage, because all those things that I just think, Simon, this is literally the dullest conversation I've ever had. I don't want to talk about this. And I used to have to do that with you. I don't have to do it anymore. You just go and have a little chat with Bradley.
You're funny.
But anyway, do you know how I used it the other day as well? I was in the car with my niece and nephew.
Marriage counselling? I don't know.
No.
Go on, tell me.
I was in the car with my niece and nephew for a couple of hours, and I gave them Hazel. I said, Hazel, speak to the kids.
They're under 10. Like a nanny.
Yeah, they're under 10. So I said, be careful what you say. And they were just having conversations. They were asking facts. They were asked to tell me jokes. They were just away for about an hour. They loved it.
Oh, so maybe more people will be having kids now, because that is better than sticking an iPad in front of them.
Well, yeah, because they were learning.
They could learn. Yeah. Like it's having an AI tutor with you while you're in the car.
Yep. We were on our way to Wembley Stadium, and we were driving down the road, and they were describing things that they could see and asking ChatGPT what it was. It was absolutely brilliant. They were amazed by it.
Absolutely love that. Anyway, thanks for joining us for another week's podcast. As always, if you feel like you might have outgrown your current accountant, you'd like to work with Claire and her amazing team at Profit Cash Growth, go to the website. You can book a discovery call there to have a quick catch up about where you're at with your financial business journey and anything we can do to help with that. As always, please share this episode with a friend. Just text it across to them if you found it useful, to say, I think you find this useful as well. Again, go back through all of the podcasts, over 100 episodes now of great evergreen content to help you improve your cash flow, increase your profits and grow your business. And as always, we will see you again next week.